Dun-dun-dun, 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 Tilted Balls. All right, welcome back to a special episode of the Kilted Balls podcast. Today we are joined by Jasen. Woo! So we've been talking about Jasen for quite a long time. Lots of times we have referenced his thoughts, and we finally have him on for an interview. So Jasen, welcome.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
We are so glad, because we do talk about you in almost every episode, I want to say. So
half of them at least. So
yeah. Yep. And Kilted, we can't hear you, so talk again.
Oh, really? You couldn't hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
I'll have to project my voice from the inside.
Yes. From here. Let it all out.
I'm a major of a modern major general. Does that sound good?
You are something. You are something. That is for sure. So, well, Kilted, kick us off here. What should we pester Jasen about?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about it a little bit. I think that especially because we've been focusing on NFTs and crypto so much, that I think that would be a great start for Jasen to kind of fill us in on that background. He is an entrepreneur as well, and that's how he and I had met many, many years ago. But I think let's skip over that part, and we can always return back to that some other time, like interview 2 or 3, or just whatever. But I think because we've covered that's a lot of what we're covering recently, I think that would be a great start. Does that sound good?
So
yeah.
So why don't we start then, Jasen? Can you tell us how you got into this space at all? So how did you get into crypto? How did you get into NFTs? Why don't we start there?
I was living my life like all of us were prior to the shutdowns, and then coronavirus hit. And so I had a few months off. Businesses were closed, and I was like, all right, I've always wanted to try this investing thing. So I started with stocks, and I started learning about the stock market, putting money on things, buying and selling, a little bit of day trading. And, I liked it, and I was having some big wins. And I think we all have stories of like, I should have sold here and would have done even better. And I have some of those, but for the most part, I had huge wins, even though I could have won even bigger. And at some point during this, Bitcoin kind of caught my eye. And, I'm hearing all this crypto stuff, and I'm like, well, what is this? This sounds interesting. So I started doing my homework on it. What is this Bitcoin? How does it work? What does it do? And I think it was about September-ish, maybe, of 2020, maybe even August, when I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy one of these Bitcoin things. They're going to be around for a while.
Right.
But how do I do that? I can't do that on my stock platform. So I had to figure all that out. And meanwhile, life had started back up again. And, I'm moving through it like everybody else is doing. And then I'm like, I got to buy this. How do I do it? And by the time I actually pulled the trigger and figured out how to buy it, I want to say it really was like October-ish. And I watched Bitcoin, in the shutdowns, it dropped down to about 3,000. I watched it.
So you're talking about, just to be clear, October, like 2020.
Yeah,
yes. Not like 2 months ago.
Not 2 months ago, October 2020. And, I watched it, the history of it. I'm like, well, it's gone up and down crazy. And, it was at 3,000, but everything was down March of 2020. So that wasn't unusual. It made a strong comeback to 10, which was half of its all-time high, going back to December of 2017. And I decided that, now's the time. So by the time I did that, it had gone up another $15,000. So now I'm looking at a $25,000 Bitcoin. It had passed its previous all-time high, but I already committed myself to buying some. It was just a matter of doing it. So I went ahead and did it. And then it kept going to 50 and then 60. And then, it just kind of kept going. And actually, when I first bought my Bitcoin, I bought 1 Bitcoin and 1 Ethereum, because I didn't understand what was really happening. And I wish I would have put the same dollar amount on Ethereum as I did on Bitcoin, because we'd have a totally different conversation now. Yeah, and I've had huge wins, but I mean, that would be astronomical wins. And so
do you know, just out of curiosity, How much did Ethereum change since October 2020? I don't know.
First one that I bought, I think, was about $340. And I bought one.
So it would have been like, what is that, 13x?
Yeah, something like that right now, especially at the all-time high. Yeah, easily.
So I mean, yeah, that would not have been. I mean, part of the thing I love about this game is all the shoulda, coulda, wouldas in it. But yeah, I mean, you 13x $25,000, right? Like you're at 325,000 for that one purchase. That'd have been nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the thing is, you just don't know. So either what happens is you either learn from your mistakes and you stay in the space and you keep going, or you don't have the temperament for it and you have to get out. Because if you get emotional with this stuff, you're done. You're finished. You're gonna sell when you shouldn't be selling. And I was on the ride from when Bitcoin was 25 up to, what was the first all-time high? I think it was around 58. Was it?
Yeah, I think it was 50 something.
Yeah, I think it was up there. And then I watched it go back down to 30. So in my mind, I'm losing half my money at that point.
Right.
So what do? Do you hold on? Do you sell? You research as much as you can. You follow your instincts a little bit and you take a guess. And, I believe it's going to continue to rise in the long term. Short term, you never know. But the long term, I've got a lot of conviction that it's going to keep going, along with Ethereum and a lot of the other altcoins at this point. And we'll have to give it some time to see what happens. But, from there, I started learning more and I'm like, oh, I should have bought some more of this Ethereum stuff. So I stopped buying Bitcoin and started buying Ethereum. And I think my average buy-in on that for whatever amount I had gotten up to was probably around, maybe 2,000 per,
Okay.
So that's not too bad considering it's, between 4 and 5 right now.
Right.
We think it's going to go to 15 or 20 possibly in the next few months, which is huge. But, at some point in this, I was like, you know what, why am I trading stocks anymore? Like, this doesn't even make sense. I was doing good in stocks, but I wasn't doubling and tripling, quadrupling and 10xing my money. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going all in on this crypto stuff. And so I pulled everything I had out of the stock market, except a small bet I have on AMC, but that's a different show. Bet at this point, it's either going to turn into a telephone number or it's going to go to zero. But and that's still many thousands of dollars, but still. So yes. I'm all in basically on crypto now, and I've expanded into other coins as well. May really of this past year, I don't remember where I saw it first, whether it was Facebook or somewhere. I saw Gary Vee starting to talk about NFTs. And I know Jeremy had bought some NFTs and like he got a cool Batman and some other stuff. And I'm like,
the DeLorean.
Yeah, the DeLorean. I'm like, that's pretty cool, but I'm not really a collector. I've a collector in my past, but I'm not living that lifestyle currently. I don't collect. I have some, but I'm not actively accumulating baseball cards and comic books and things like that. And I really looked at this space as that's what this is. And to some degree, I think it is. But, then Gary Vee comes out and he's like, you need to put at least one Ethereum in this MetaMask wallet and like do this thing. And I trust Gary, so I'm like, well, if Gary's telling us to do it, let me see what Jeremy thinks. Say, hey, buddy, have you seen this thing that he's doing? What do you think about this? And we started talking back and forth, and he would get me excited. I got him excited, back and forth. And the next thing you know, we have a small farm. I mean, I don't know
how McDonald's got nothing on us.
Yeah, we're collecting sloths and oysters and
don't forget Yetis. Don't forget Yetis.
Yetis. I mean, well, Gary really brought us into the space. I think for me anyway. My first one was the gift goat, so I bought one of those first, and then
that was your first thing. The first thing you ever bought was a gift goat.
First thing I ever bought was a gift goat. Yeah, yeah, and so for people. For people not really familiar with the space that might be listening, that was a $20,000 purchase. I could take this Ethereum and I could cash it in for $20,000, or I could buy this picture of a goat, as most people would reference it. And NFTs are much more than that. You know, saying that I could take a picture of your NFT and that I own it is kind of like going to your house and saying, I can take a picture of your house and now I own your house. You know, no, you don't.
Right.
A picture of my house, and you know, it goes far deeper to actually own it. Own it means you can sell it. So you nobody wants to buy a picture of your house. So,
or a picture of a picture in general.
Picture. So you know, you really
of course. That being said, I bought pictures of Van Gogh. So maybe you can't buy a picture.
Yeah, that's a print. That's a print. You know. So,
yeah.
I mean, it can be done, but it was, so that was a lot of fun. So then I think I bought an organized ostrich after that, and then
so wait. So Gary V.
Purchase first. I thought because I bought your organized ostrich, but you bought the gift.
So yeah, I think actually, yeah, that is what happened. So,
but you officially bought the goat.
I wanted, yeah, I was trying to buy. That is exactly what happened. Actually, I was trying to buy the organized ostrich, and something was wrong with my account, and that happens sometimes in the space when you're brand new and you don't know what's going on. And so, it wasn't going through for some reason. So I asked Jeremy to buy that, and I'd give him the money for it, and then I got my account cleaned up. And I think technically he bought that for me before I pulled the trigger on the goat, but he was moving into the condos. So the first one I bought was actually that I paid for directly was the goat, you know, but they were kind of at the same time. And I think I bought the second goat shortly after that.
Okay. So just to make sure I'm following around, Gary V said, take one Ethereum and put it into NFTs. And your response to this was to spend 5 Ethereum on a goat.
18 by the time I was done with it.
You bought the goat for 18?
I bought the goat for 5, but then I bought the ostrich and I bought another goat. I bought a bunch of other stuff. So by the time I was done with that little project, it was 18 Ethereum. And this was at a point, ETH was at $4,000.
Right. Ethereum was high then.
Yeah. So what are we talking there? Close to 80 grand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pictures of NFTs when I had zero interest, but really what I saw was a vision, and I trusted Gary and I trusted the homework that I did, because I didn't just buy this. Gary didn't say buy this, and I said okay. Gary said buy this. Jeremy said buy this.
No, because that was my third chance of Gary saying to do something, and I wasn't going to miss it this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, you guys had such a better experience with Gary than I did, because, well, I mean, we all know my history with NFTs, right? But honestly, nothing that Gary has told me to purchase yet
he did not purchase the unicorns.
No, that was all you, and you got the super rare one too.
No, that was Gary. I bought that because of Gary.
He said to buy it?
100%. Huh?
I don't think he said to buy it. I think he said buying it.
He 100% was Gary. He was like, I just interviewed these people. I interviewed these parents. They're awesome. You need to go and help them out and get into this project. And so I went and I grabbed 3.
I heard him say that about the women and bought 2 at 0.08.
Well, I bought women, but I bought women because you said buy women.
Yeah, but that was double by the time you bought it.
Yes, we're not talking.
And I still made a huge profit on my women.
There's no actual women being traded in this conversation.
But the other thing, and this one I'm okay with for Gary, but I bought books, right? So Gary said, buy my book. And I was like, okay.
I still think, and we had this conversation today, that whatever he does with the book NFT, you are going to be able to flip it for more than the 300 you paid for the 12 books.
But here's my problem. That might be true, that I could flip it, but you got to actually flip the shit.
Yeah.
I passed out a bunch of books today. I was super happy. Like this morning, I had a bunch of orders, and every one I just made sure a book would fit in there. And in the past, I've done a few of them here and there, but like, you know what, every single one of these, they're getting a book. So
I gave 3 to the library yesterday. Went and donated 3. So, and I told them not to purchase any. So kind of a big deal. So I said, don't purchase these. I'm going to be donating 3. Let me know if you need more. So
Awesome.
I'm bitter. My books are sitting in the box unopened still.
and the book we are talking about, loyal listeners, 12 and a half by Gary Vaynerchuk.
I heard it's good.
Mine is not in the box. I mean, let me rephrase that. I have some in box still unopened, but at least one box is opened. So
one thing that's pretty interesting that Jason and I were talking about earlier is that a year ago he was visiting the same weekend. That's when we went sledding, and I remember
it screwed up my D&D game. Thanks, Jason.
Sorry about that. I saved it this time.
We were talking a lot about, I mean, he was talking a lot about stocks, a little bit about crypto. And that was the time where I thought I was going to go into stocks a little bit more and to be able to do that, although that didn't happen. And then, a little later at the beginning of the next year, he's talking more about crypto. And that's what really got me into crypto, because you visited again. It was February.
February.
Visited again.
Yeah.
So that's when I really started doing a lot of homework on crypto. But one of the really cool things is that, even though he was telling me about it, he wasn't, I wanted him to tell me like some podcasts to listen to, like what he liked. And he wasn't telling me anything. He just said, do your homework.
I thought I sent you a few links though.
No, you sent me links on stock stuff.
Oh yeah, because I was
on the crypto, not on the crypto at all.
Yeah, I was still I was still kind of new at that point.
Yeah,
that's really what it was. I think I was like, I'd been doing it for a month or two at that point, so I was still navigating and learning. So I think part of that, I had more knowledge about the stocks to share, but I really, other than saying buy Bitcoin, I really didn't know what else to say.
Yeah,
I didn't have enough to follow yet.
But I think it helped me a lot, as far as me having to do more research. And it's funny because we're, listening to a couple podcasts today, and I think we listen to like one of the same podcasts and we watch like one person the same, but besides that, we both have a different repertoire of people who we listen to and what we're paying attention to. But there is a lot of information out there and a lot of really good information. And so I think that was one thing that was really cool.
Not to put you on the spot, but did you listen to the All In?
I didn't, but I have it saved on there. I have it where I subscribed, but I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We got that drop, by the way, which was pretty cool.
And it looked really cool.
Yeah. All right. So you bought the Gary V.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gary said, buy this stuff. And so I did my research. I agreed with what he was saying. And so I bought a bunch on a chance. And they just took off. I mean, and then bought some Yetis, some super Yetis.
And they took off. They went huge.
The opposite direction. So not everything goes up, but the money that I've made on other things is far made up for the few projects that I've invested that have gone south, because it's not all wins. And that's the thing with this space, is that you have to be of a certain temperament. You have to be okay winning and losing and just keep playing. And as long as you have more wins than losses, you're going to grow. And you're going to learn in the process. But what happens sometimes is people get too emotional, and then this is not an emotional space. You can't be emotional in the space. That's when you see things drop and you get scared and you sell. And, so it takes a lot to watch Bitcoin go from 60,000 back down to 30. Especially when you own more than one of those, you're losing tens of thousands. To watch your portfolio drop by tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars because of a volatile market, you can't be scared by that. You have to have a lot of conviction, and that takes homework. That takes a lot of research, a lot of studying, a lot of understanding what it is, and understanding what the different things are that you're invested in. If you can't do that, and I think that's where some of the holdup is. A lot of people don't have the time to do it. And I think another challenge that people might be having is that Bitcoin is a scam.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a scam, maybe it's not. It's not for me to judge. Time will tell that. But, I look at Bitcoin no differently than I look at the stock market. When you buy a stock, you're buying a perceived piece of that company. And society has agreed that company trades a good deal on a stock will be a certain times earnings. And we all decide together that number is 10 times earnings or 100 times earnings. we can decide what that is. And at the end of the day, as you own one stock, you have very, very little, no say pretty much in what direction that company travels. You own a piece of not even paper at this point, but you thing that you're hoping that somebody else will pay you more for in the future. At the end of the day, that's what a stock is. You hope that you're buying a company that will be around a long time and hopefully be doing better in the future. And for those reasons, somebody will pay you more. That's no different than owning Bitcoin or these other things. You're buying something that you believe one day will be worth more, and somebody will be willing to give you more. Some of the stocks are different because you feel like you own a piece of the company with a stock. With Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, you own a piece of the project in a sense, not even a piece of the project. You own a token in the project that is doing other things. And these different projects do different things. Bitcoin, we consider it a store of value. So it's almost like digital gold. It's big, it's clunky, it's hard to move around, it's slow to move, but it's super secure. And so nobody's hacked the system yet over, I think, 13 years it's been around. And nobody's hacked the system yet. So that gives that doesn't mean nobody ever will. But if it's unlikely and it stays like this, then it's a secure system. And as these big corporations are buying more, as countries are now buying Bitcoin, what do you think is going to happen to it as more and more of the world buys Bitcoin? There's only 19 million Bitcoin, or 21 that'll ever be produced, 19 million.
Right.
So if it goes up in demand, I think I read somewhere that there's like 65 million millionaires in the world. There's not even enough Bitcoin for each millionaire in the world to just own one.
Right.
So what do you think is going to happen to it if countries really start adopting it, which they are? States are starting to adopt it. Miami's getting into Bitcoin now too. So it's like it has a really bright future of demand as a store of value. And so that's why I believe it's going to continue to go up. And other people way smarter than me, that I think anyway, they see it the same way. There's companies right now that are all in on Bitcoin that have billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin in storage because they believe it's going to keep going up. Ethereum's a little different. It's got uses. Ethereum is like a city, and in cities we have buildings. And the projects that are being built on top of Ethereum and competitors to Ethereum, which I would consider like Ethereum's like New York City, Solana's like Chicago, both big cities, and we got buildings. The projects are the buildings that are going up on these cities, and each building
analogy,
its own use, and you have different things like NFTs are one building in the Ethereum ecosystem, creating demand of use. And there's a lot of other things that are happening in the eco space too. So there's all these projects that are attached to these different coins. Ethereum has a lot of use. So some people say it's like digital oil because we use oil, we burn oil. We kind of do that with right now too. So if that continues happening, and it's the best one out there right now, it's going to keep going up over time. And, and there's a ton of other smaller coins that are trying to do things even better than Bitcoin, even better than Ethereum. So we don't know. Time will tell if Bitcoin is going to be like AOL. They were huge at one point. They were buying up other companies, and now they basically don't exist anymore. But we don't know if that's going to be the case. So you're making these plays and moving money around back and forth. And if you have a good temperament for it, you're not getting emotional, and you've put in the time, you really can do some amazing things in the space really fast.
So you went a lot of places here. So
yeah,
let's pester you with questions. Let's start with this first one, because I think this is an interesting dichotomy that you're right on, but it needs more explaining. So you talked about how you can't get emotional in the space. When you see your Bitcoin go to 30, you can't get emotional. You got to follow the plan, which is that it's going to go back up to 60, because otherwise that's a huge loss, right? If it goes to 0, you're screwed. If you're just like, I'm going to hold on for dear life. So in that part, you can't be emotional. But on the other hand, through our conversations, you'll have I cannot remember the project for the life of me, right? But the Discord, they were shitty to you, and you're like, I'm out. The feeling isn't there. I don't feel good about it. And like, that's an NFT versus that. And I totally agree with that too. So like, sometimes you don't want emotional at all. and on other times you need to be emotional. So how do you like deal with that in that covered noggin of yours?
And that's a tough thing. I struggle with that daily.
With the noggin or with that issue?
Sorting it all out. I mean, so we're human, so we're going to be emotional no matter what. We have emotions, we're human, this is what it is. So it really comes down to training yourself to not be too emotional and stick to the plan. And I have a little more experience at this point with stocks and crypto, and even getting more so with NFTs. I feel like, each time I go through something in that space, it hardens me a little more. It's kind of like if you're making a sword, you're dipping it in the water and reheating it, dipping it in the water, because you're tempering it, you're making it stronger. And so this process, that's what you have to do. Nobody's going to come into the space and be steel. You're going to come into the space and you're going to freak out when you see things going up and down and all over the place. And it takes time and a little bit of luck to be able to stay in the space. Because if you just make some bad moves and you run out of money, then you're done. If you get a little lucky and you make some right moves, you can keep playing the game. So when it comes to projects, you have to follow some of your instincts. You have to trust your gut to a certain degree. And when you start to get bad vibes from things, you have to try and decipher, when is it bad vibes and when is it, you're scared, you're acting in fear. And so I'm pretty good on not, sometimes I'll see things happen. I'll go, oh, that doesn't look good, but I think this or whatever. And I'll go back to my conviction because I did the homework. If you don't have strong conviction, if you haven't done the homework in things, you forget why you bought it in the first place. And then it's very easy to sell. If you've got strong conviction, it's a lot easier to hold because, in stocks, if you're holding on to a great company, Tesla's a great company. I don't have any money currently on Tesla, but I was lucky enough to get into Tesla before they did their split. So I had a huge play on Tesla. And I mean, if you double money and you double money and you double money again, it doesn't take very many doublings for it to be a lot of money. And so I've had a few plays like that. And I pulled everything out of Tesla to go into crypto because even though I believe in Tesla as a company and I strongly that it was going to go to, it'll be probably $3,000 a share next year this time. It's $1,000 now. So that's a great play. And probably a secure play, but you could do so much more with crypto. So I've gone through this process with the project you're referencing, which I don't love to.
What project was that? What am I forgetting?
Tell you later. I don't want to really.
Oh, you don't want to give them yeah. I gotcha.
I don't really, because I know that that's my own personal feeling. So I can tell you the story. And if I don't put the name with it, I feel like I try not to intentionally anyway. So, I got into the space. It was one of the projects that Gary liked. He was hyping a lot of different projects for a while. He still does to a certain degree. I looked into the project. I thought it was neat and interesting. It was kind of an older project. The guy who was initially behind it was a big player in the early space on this. I liked his story. So I felt good about these things because I was hearing and researching a lot of things I liked about it. Then I got into the Discord, and the Discord was really just treating people kind of poorly. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. They weren't being kind to people. They were there's sometimes you have to get rid of bad apples in Discord. But people were asking questions, legitimate questions about the project that were hard to answer. And instead of dealing with their questions, they just were deleting people. And I think one of the things that happened with us, it was one of the projects that Gary was doing a free drop on. You had to go to their website.
Yeah.
Drop, and there were so many drops, and so I went to the website like we're supposed to do, and I did everything I was supposed to do. And I don't remember the specific issue, but my perspective on it was I did everything in the time they were talking about, and they basically, the screen that popped up was saying I was not eligible when I was eligible, and they had earlier told me I was eligible. So this was a conflict, and so I'm in the support channel trying to get this addressed and understand what happened. And I basically was told that I was stupid. And when I told the lady, I said, that's not very nice. I'm here trying to get support and help for this project. And maybe you're not the right person for dealing with these types of challenges, she didn't like that. So I got booted off. That's how it went down. I told her, you maybe you don't have the right temperament for this support. I'm frustrated, I'm having a problem, and you're treating me like I'm an idiot. And she was doing the same thing with a lot of other people. And so, they booted me off, and I was like, that didn't give me a good feeling. I wasn't getting good vibes from the project. So it wasn't out of fear that I stopped supporting that project. Because if they were doing that to me, I felt they were doing that to other people. If they were doing that to other people, they were going to have the same feeling. So what do I think the project is going to do in that case? It's going to go down. That was my belief. So my belief shifted. And as a result, I don't like to go other places and bash to create other fear. I just like the exit. And so I think I had 9 or 10 of those. I think I sold 3 or 4, and then the floor dropped too low. And I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to hold on to the rest of these. And then maybe one day they'll go back up. But I have learned since then that the creator of the project, who I thought was still involved at that point, basically turned it over to these Discord managers, is my understanding. So he's not really involved in it anymore. So
he just took his money and ran.
He it's what it feels like to me, if I understand the situation correctly.
Well, and if that was a huge, still is a huge project. So if he took all of those purchases, I mean, that's crazy wealth right there.
I don't know how, I know he still owns many NFTs in his project. I just don't know his current true involvement in the project.
Right.
I don't know if he can come back, if he's just kind of busy doing other things. That was kind of one of those things I heard, is that and it was from him. It wasn't even secondhand information. I was listening to him on something else, and somebody had asked him a question about it, and he just kept referencing turning it over to Discord and the managers in Discord, and he kept referencing that kind of stuff. So it just
it's all kind of on them. And if I remember right, that project has not gained value. It hasn't really lost. It's kind of just been, which a lot of projects are. A lot of projects are just sitting that way.
Yeah, but your belief in something is what drives this. It drives everything in life. We make our decisions based on our beliefs, and so sometimes beliefs change. People get angry sometimes when their beliefs change, or they get angry because they don't want their beliefs change. But that's the reality. Our beliefs change based on new information all the time. And if I'm going one direction with something and my beliefs change and I'm getting a different vibe or feel from it, then I pivot with that and I go in a different direction. And, I accept responsibility for that. There might not be anything wrong with the project itself, but I might make a decision. Okay, I thought I was going to be in this a long time, but the things that I thought were going to happen aren't happening, and I'd like to exit at this point. So, it's just, that's the way the space is. And something I read a long time ago, kind of two things. One of them, which kind of referencing back to when things drop, if something falls and you wouldn't buy it at the price it is right now, you probably shouldn't own it. Because you don't think it's a good deal at what it is right now, you should sell that item, because you just don't have high conviction in it, and it's not necessarily ever going to go up. Some of the things that I have in my wallet that I feel that way about, I've made the decision not to sell because there's other fees involved with selling that I just don't want to pay those fees, and there's potential that it could go back up, and maybe I would buy what I have now, I just wouldn't add to it. So potential, like Super Yeti is one of those. I think Super Yeti could be a win in the future. I like them. Right now, they're not really doing much. They've had some struggles, but so I'm not in a position to buy more. But if I didn't have any, maybe I'd buy a few right now. Because I feel like they're a low enough value, and so that's one thing I look at. And where was I going with the other one? I do that a lot. I'll get on two things and I'm like, I forgot the other.
Right, and then you forgot it. But Yetis are a great example, and we should probably wrap up this portion of an interview and do another one sometime. But Yetis are a great conundrum, because like you, I think Yetis might turn into something someday. We'll see. I've had a lot of confidence in them. I've got a lot of confidence in things like Lucky Manakees. But it brings a good question. With there being thousands and thousands and thousands of projects and 10 plus every single day hitting just Ethereum, not talking about Polygon and Solana, which are having their own come through, or Candy, or Gal, what's the one you always get, Jared, the V or whatever?
The VVs, yeah.
The VV?
Their own app.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean, but they're like their own kind of a thing. You know, so I've got three questions here, Jason, to kind of wrap up this portion of the interview. The first one is what do you think is going to drive NFTs that are going to be long term? Like, you might as well be a diamond hand, not a diamond hand because you love the thing, but diamond hands because when the smoke clears in 2 years, they're the ones left standing.
That's a tough question. I mean, because if we look back to what happened in the early days of the internet, you know, there was Amazon was in there, eBay was in there, these big companies were in there, AOL was in there, you know, pets.com was in there. Pets.com is different today, but I mean, they were a company back then too, a different company. So what made those winners versus the losers? You know, we know what Amazon's doing. We know what eBay is doing. We know what happened to AOL. I think that the winners are going to be able to shift with the space. And it's hard to predict because I don't think any of us looking back to those early years when Amazon was just selling books ever imagined that they would one day be able to be competitive with virtually anything and get it to you in 4 hours with free shipping with a competitive price to the big box stores. So we couldn't, and maybe there were people who could see that, but for the most part, we couldn't really as a society envision that. No. So what is going to happen with the NFTs on the other side of this? The winners, I think that's really tough. I think that's really tough because did we feel back then that there was a need to have an item shipped to our house in 4 hours? We weren't even comfortable putting our credit card into a computer.
Right.
Feeling like we have the need for it, even with free shipping at that point. And if we got free shipping, we would have called it a scam. Sure. You know, so like what is a project like VeeFriends going to be able to offer, 2 years from now? You know, I mean, with so many other projects in the mix, it's hard to say. I mean, maybe there is some IP available because, creativity and, shows and Disney and cartoons and movies and, books, those are going to be here to stay for a while, I think. So I think that some of it might tie in with that. Maybe some of it ties in with additional, like VeeFriends gives you a ticket to go to VCon. And all he has to do is that for 3 years. And on the 4th year, he doesn't have to do VCon anymore, but there's nothing stopping Gary from doing something else that gives you some kind of benefit. And I think it's hard for us to see what that really is right now. So I don't really know how this is going to play out long-term. Short term, it's insane. It's insane. We have projects like the Bored Ape Yacht Club that are $250,000 for an ape, for one of these pictures, as people like to call it. And now they're giving you some value there. So maybe that's a great example. The Bored Ape Yacht Club is building a house in Miami of some sort that if you own an ape, you're going to be able to go hang out there like a country club in that sense. So they're doing something to tie their tokens in with the physical world where you can go hang out in their club. They did rent a yacht in New York City at Halloween, and 1,000 people, basically the first 1,000 out of these 10,000 are actually maybe 25,000 tokens, but whatever. They invited 1,000 of the first people on a yacht for free. So if you owned a token, you could register and go on this boat for free. And so they're doing things that are connecting with the real world, like a club. And so maybe we'll see more of that. That's where it'll fill. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Maybe a little both, maybe a little IP Disney kind of feel from Gary Vee and a modern day country club feel from something like the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So I think that would be our clue to where we're going, and we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think you're right on a lot of that. I think it's interesting because that's how I describe the Bored Apes to people. I'm like, the Bored Apes are a really high end country club. I go, that's what they are. They're a club. You get to be part of that community. You're only part of the community with that. That's your ticket to the country club. And so when people say, why would you want a Bored Ape? Why would you want that? And I'm like, that's your ticket. The same reason why anybody wants to be part of any country club anywhere, they want to do that. And I go, that's why you have big players joining the space. Because I forget who was the most recent one who bought into Bored Apes. Was it Adidas?
Jimmy Fallon and Adidas. Actually,
Adidas just did.
Yeah.
So I thought it was Adidas, and somebody, I said, yeah, this big company. They're like, really? The big company did? And I'm like, yeah. And what I didn't explain to the people I was talking to is not only is it a country club, but unlike a normal country club, which has a bunch of snobs ruling the country club, this has its Discord community running the country club. And these companies are saying, if I get in, I know the minimum that anybody who's in there has is $24,000 of liquid capital. That's the minimum. They've got 24,000 with maximums being up to $200,000 liquid capital. And weird, I might want to market to those people specifically. And I don't have to run ads. I don't have to do this. I can say, hey, we're going to come to that yacht too. Let us fund this display for you. Hey, I'm going to be at your clubhouse. I'm going to fund this display for you.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the apes is that you own your intellectual property for your ape. So you can make, like, their apes are wearing Adidas outfits now. Well, their ape that they got wears Adidas clothing.
Yes.
They stitch them up and they can make them do stuff. And you're right, they can put them in commercials, this and that, and they have at least that captive audience that includes Mutant Ape.
Yes. And I love the fact about being in commercials, because what that's going to do is make other people notice the space. They're going to be like, oh, I want that. They're going to look at Bored Apes and be like, I'm not going to drop 200,000, but you know what? I'll get a kid ape. I'll get a baby ape. Maybe I'll get a Yeti. Like, I'll be in the space and I can feel cool. Right. The other thing is like you talked about with Amazon, it's what people can shift and know the tide. And that's one of the reasons, like we've talked about in the past, that's one of the things I like about Lucky Manatee. Lucky Manatee isn't trying to do what everybody else is doing, saying we're going to put features out everywhere, right? And we're just going to see what sticks. And I feel like that's kind of like what Amazon did. They started with books and they said, well, shit, let's try free shipping. Let's try some hardware. Let's try some groceries. Let's see what sticks. And holy cow, all of it stuck.
But they also were the highest spenders on Google AdWords as well early on.
Yeah,
they were. It made a huge difference.
It seems weird.
Right. Yeah. Well, but again, take Lucky Manatee. Lucky Manatee was the first NFT to throw the thing up on Times Square. Right. Since then, lots have, but they were the first ones to be like, we're going there. Right.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a company where I'm like, I feel like, I don't know how big their value is going to be eventually. I know it's really low right now. It's an easy time to get in, but the point being that they're ready to shift. And I think you're right. Places that are ready to shift fast, they're going to be able to do this. If you're a company that can't shift fast, honestly, I think the one that we talked about earlier that you didn't have the feeling for, I don't feel like they're shifting. I don't feel like Curio Cards is going to shift. I think Curio Cards is going to be good maybe because of their history, and they're going to be like McRibs, right?
Where that one before I bought all those, but
well, you had me FOMO'd in. I almost bought a whole bunch. It was like just a weird set of circumstances that I didn't FOMO in.
I think about selling the ones that I have now because I'm still up, but I'm like, I would buy them at these prices because they're one of the original projects that came out, and I think the history of them when other people get into the space, if it does in fact turn into what the internet turned into, and this stays a thing, I think people are going to want the original stuff, and I think
some people are going to want the original. I think some people want the full set. I don't know if people are willing to pay outrageous prices, but like I still I was checking them out the other day, looking at number one, going, will it go lower? Can I get it lower? And I'm like, wait, follow the plan. Keep my money out of NFTs right now. I'll come back and get it later on. Right.
Yeah.
So that's the message right now to me, is I always have to do that. But yeah, I agree with you. So here's the next set of big question, and then we'll end our interview. I want a prediction for either December 31st or January 1st. What's Bitcoin? What's Ethereum? And what do you think, Jared? Should we pick another crypto or should we pick an NFT?
Well, he doesn't do as much. I mean, you could say like an ADA. I mean, you're almost an ADA gang.
ADA? Cardano? Yeah.
But he doesn't do a lot of altcoins.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
not,
you
Not like,
do those two.
I don't have
That's
time
what everybody's going to know. Do Bitcoin and Ethereum. What's your gut prediction that in 21 days, what do you think? So 3 weeks from now, what are those two going to be?
Also, I want to chime in. If you have a prediction, what you think the blow off top will be, because I don't think there's going to be much growth between now and the end of the year, but I think the first quarter is going to be crazy. But I would love to hear what Jason thinks.
I still think, I feel like there's a lot of suppression on Bitcoin right now. And there's a lot of reasons why there's players in this space that have just been around and are big, and they have certain controls and things they can do to create fear through media, through selling off of things. And, there's stuff going on that I don't even understand. And so I feel like there's a huge incentive to keep Bitcoin low for now, because if Bitcoin shot to, let's say, $500,000 by the end of the year, which I don't believe that, it's going to destroy other markets. Why invest there? It's going to cause a lot of chaos. So they're trying to create some stability with this. So I think it's realistic for Bitcoin to get just under 100 by the end of the year. Even this is only a few weeks away. We're already on the 9th.
That's why I said 3 weeks, right?
I think there's a chance it could get. Now we might not see that, but I think there's a chance. I think Ethereum, I think under 10. I think 8 probably realistic by the end of the year, maybe to 10, and both of those are connected. So they either both, I think, hit around there, or neither one does, and they end up just kind of staying with what they're doing. But even if they don't, I'm super bullish in the first quarter. I think if we don't see that, we're going to see a dip where maybe it goes up a little bit more than it is now, or maybe just stays the same. And, companies rebalance at the end of the year. So it's normal in every market to have a sell-off right before the end of the year. It causes a little panic. It causes people to hit some of their lost stop losses. And so it triggers other things to happen sometimes. And so it pushes down. So if we see things where they are even a little bit lower, I think that we'll see those numbers and a little bit more first quarter of next year. I think we'll see closer to 135 to 150 by the end of the first quarter on Bitcoin, and maybe at least 15,000 on ETH. I think if we don't have the run up now, that's really what I'm looking.
So you're saying at the end of the first quarter, 15 on ETH.
Yeah. I think that's where it's going. And I could be totally wrong, and maybe it only hits 8 or 10. And people can call me, names and say that I didn't pick the right thing. Not that anybody watches this, but
only a few.
But the reality is okay, maybe I'm wrong, and it only hits 8. That's still double from where it is right now. And
right, that's still pretty good.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, and I think if it hits 15 at the end of first quarter, you'll be able to pick up friend or 2.5, 3.
Yeah, that's kind of
that's why my plan was to get out of a lot of my NFTs and hold, right? Because I'm like, if it hits 15, which maybe not, I don't know, but if it does, I think the dollar value of those NFTs is not going to rise like those.
Yeah,
I think that could very well be right. We've kind of seen that on a lot of things right now too, as ETH went from, it hit its all-time high, dropped back down from, I think the high was maybe 46. It dropped from 46 back down to 2000 before hitting 49, I think 48 maybe. Right. So when it did that second run up, we all thought that we were going to see the NFTs travel with that. We
Because
saw them go
historically,
down.
It did before then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. So, it started acting a little bit differently, and we'll see where it goes from here. I mean, it's hard to have a crystal ball and know for sure, but
Well,
the thing I know is I think all of us are winning big because we're playing the game, and hopefully we'll be able to continue doing that.
well, and what my gut says to me is that what's happening now and what's going to continue to happen forever from this point on, more or less, is you're getting normal people in the NFT world. And
Yeah.
normal people use the dollar as a reference point. And before, we were so early, we were with crypto people and they use Bitcoin and Ethereum as the reference point.
Mhm.
And, so before we were like, I'm not going to pay less ETH or buy. And now people are looking at dollars. They're looking at dollars and cents.
I agree with that. I think that's a really interesting way to put it, because I never stopped to consider that the people early on that have been doing this for a long time would think that way compared to new people. But I'm relatively new in the space. I mean, I only got in here October-ish of 2020.
We're almost OGs though.
Yeah, well,
I was just going to say, you say you're new, but you're not.
well, it's a relative thing. So, and it's all about how many people are getting into the space right now.
Mhm.
So if we were to just say there's 100 people in the space currently, we were part of the first 10. And that was kind of late, because in 2020, when we got into this space, the other people that have been here since, the early teens or whatever, those are the OGs. There's only 10 of those guys.
They already have their
Right.
Yeah. So, but I will say this is I did buy a, that's just,
Nice job. Nice job.
so I did buy a big TV recently, and even though I was shopping in the store and I was shopping in US dollars, my brain was thinking, how much ETH is this? And that's
Yeah.
a really important note too, because I heard this recently. People are not buying things right now in Bitcoin. And I'm just putting this together now, but I heard this. People are not buying things in Bitcoin. When people are buying things, they're using ETH, they're using Dogecoin, even though that's a meme coin. They're using other tokens to pay for things. People are having work done, like you guys did your new logo recently,
Yes.
and I know a little bit about the
ETH.
deal, but you paid ETH,
We paid an ETH. Yeah.
and that's what's happening. People are not paying with Bitcoin because it's slow. And there are other reasons too, but we're paying for things in ETH. So my brain was thinking, how much ETH? This TV is a half an ETH. This is 1 ETH. And not only that, because I value ETH at a much higher number. Some people are saying that by the end of the first quarter, ETH will hit 20,000. And these are knowledgeable, respectable people. Could go as high as 40. And so when you have people talking like that, when I bought a TV for however many ETH I paid for it, I didn't just think in today's dollars. I went, man, this is the most expensive TV that I'm ever going to buy, because on that TV, I'm taking away money that could be invested right now that I have high conviction in a very short time frame is going to be worth a lot more. But I'm okay with that because I've got so much more of it. I don't need that. I'm so I think it's important to also live your life and enjoy things. So you can't just make it all about the money. You have to be taking profits, even when you want to leave it in with high conviction, because you need to enjoy life. You need to do things. And that's ultimately why we're doing this, is so that we can have wealth in all aspects of our life. Because when you become independently wealthy through something like this, especially, you write your own ticket. You get to do whatever you want. And that may still be working because you love what you do. It may be having the freedom to travel or give your kids and family what they want, what you want. It's security for the future. I mean, it means a lot. So you can't just leave everything in. You got to be taking profits along the way, because we never know for sure what's going to happen, and things could change in an instant. And I'm doing great right now, and tomorrow I could wake up and go, man, that was rough. But let's stick to the plan. Long term, it's going to go back up. Let's not sell. If things didn't destroy us in the 2020 shutdowns, was probably the worst thing that we've ever seen in history, and we survived. That really gives me high conviction that it doesn't matter what the market is doing. If we have a huge sell-off, if we have a huge dip, maybe everything won't survive, but some will. And that's why I'm not all in on Bitcoin. It's why I'm not all in on ETH. I have other things that I'm invested in and will continue to diversify and probably back into the stock market too over time, because I can still double and triple my money in things there in a what I feel like is a much less volatile, safer environment compared to crypto anyway.
Right. All right. Well, we should probably wrap it up. That was a crazy, awesome interview, Jason. We want to thank you. We're going to have to interview you again because we only made it through VFriends. So we've got a lot more of your journey to go. So
at the end of the alphabet.
That's right. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Kilted, anything to add?
No, I had a great episode, and hopefully everyone enjoys it, and appreciate all of you for watching and listening.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is Ballbuster signing off.
It's Dragon Jerry. Love you all.
Jason, I don't have a cool name. Bye.